Hey guys, Willie Mayette, creator of JAZZEDGE. I want to welcome you to the Confident Improviser Podcast. This is episode number 5, and today we're going to be talking about articulation and how solos are more than just notes, and how you play those notes matters. All right, now before we go too far, let me just tell you this podcast is a great companion to my Confident Improviser program, which is found at JAZZEDGE. If you happen to be listening right now in November 2020, we have our Black Friday specials going on. So if you want to become a JAZZEDGE member, now is a great time to get in because you can get in and lock in legacy pricing. Just go back to jazzedge.com for more information. There is also going to be a video replay of this, so you can get the replay inside of the Confident Improviser course at JAZZEDGE, right? And then you can also get the podcast episode over at theconfidentimproviser.com. All right, so today's topic, articulation. Let's get right into it. So what is articulation at the piano? Articulation is basically legato and staccato. That's pretty much what we have at the piano. So if we play legato, if I just take my C minor 5-finger pattern, right? So legato usually means that we do not play the next note, or I'm sorry, legato normally means we don't lift the note we're on until we play the next note, right? So you see I'm holding the note down until I play the next note. If I don't, then I get that kind of sound. You hear how there's a break in between? Now, staccato is when we play the note short and detached, right? Another way of thinking about legato as well is smooth and connected. Staccato is short and detached. So this would be staccato. Now what's important about when you play staccato like this is it helps, especially when you're practicing. You know, in a live situation it's always going to be different, but when you're practicing, it helps to really pull at those notes using that grab technique, right? So you don't want to just push down on the notes. You want to actually grab at those notes rather than pushing down. Same thing with legato as well. You want to grab at the notes and pull them more toward you. So the first thing you should do is just practice playing legato and playing staccato. So legato, then staccato. Now, those two articulations are really important for us because if we play everything smooth and connected, well, it sounds smooth and connected all the time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the iReal Pro track here, right? And now just listen to what happens if I play like even the simple bass line, right, that we've been doing, and everything is smooth and connected in the right hand. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but now listen to it this time. Sounds a lot better that time. It sounds at least more interesting to my ears, and that's because there's a mix of legato and staccato articulations. Right? So, how do we practice this? Well, the first thing is just try practicing the legato and staccato just on the scale as is. The next thing you could do is try doing that simple bass line that I was just doing in the left hand, right? The C, the E flat, the F, the G, and then using your C minor 5-finger scale, which is C, D, E flat, F, and G, try playing legato and then try playing staccato, right? Sometimes there's a lot of benefit just to you mentally saying, hey, look, this is what I'm going to focus on. And just by focusing your attention on it, you're able to really increase your skill level on it. Sometimes that's really all it takes. Sometimes it just takes practice, but you have to focus your energy on that. So we say, okay, let me go through and I'm going to play the bass line and I'm going to think like just playing legato. Now you might say, well, wait a second, when you get to those end of those phrases, like when I do, right? Isn't that note that I just ended on, isn't that staccato? No, because I'm not attacking it as a staccato note. This would sound staccato. Right, so if I'm just ending on it like an eighth note and there's an eighth rest after it, well, then it just sounds short, but it's not a staccato articulation. All right, so that was legato. Now I'll go through and I'll try doing the same thing, staccato. Okay, just trying to get the feel of what it's like to play all of those notes short and detached. Now, I don't have to play every single note short and detached, because then that would sound like... You hear I get some legato notes in there, all right? But for the most part, I'm playing most of them staccato. Most of them are being played short. Now, where you really want to get to in your practice is mixing them together, right? So you have some short notes and you have some long notes. Okay. Now, when you're doing that, obviously rhythm is a piece of that as well, isn't it? And you should definitely take a look at the Confident Improviser practice guide that I did for rhythm. There is a rhythm practice guide, a scale practice guide, and an accompaniment practice guide, right? So those are three great practice guides to take a look at. They're all available within the Confident Improviser course found at JAZZEDGE.com. All right, so now that you could do that, what are some other ways in which we could practice legato and staccato? Well, the other thing that you could do is take just a regular scale. Like, let's take, I don't know, maybe the C major scale. This is obviously all legato, right? And here we go, this is staccato, right? Legato, staccato. And make sure that when you play legato and staccato, you're also thinking about your dynamics, right? Remember, we can play soft, we can play loud. So like... So I started staccato loud, and then staccato soft, legato loud, then legato soft. So playing around with those different articulations like that, you can get some really interesting sounds. Another great scale to work on is that chromatic scale as well, where you're just going to each individual note, right? So you could do that. All right, so what I did there was I played one octave staccato, one octave legato, right? So here we go, we start staccato, right? Then we go legato, staccato, legato, right? And I can keep going and going and going and going, all right? So you can move in between the scale, legato and staccato. So really, as you just kind of pay attention to this and you do a little bit of practice on this, it's going to start to get into your playing naturally. I don't want you to really try and force this into your playing. All right? I really want you to just kind of like practice it and let it organically get into your playing. Now, let's put on the play-along track. I have the play-along, the iReal Pro track up here for exercise number 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bass line on as well, right? So the bass player is going to play, and then this time in the left hand, I'm going to use those rootless chords that I've talked about. The rootless chord for C minor, we're just playing a 3-note chord. Sometimes we could do a 4-note, but in this case, I'm just doing 3 notes. I'm playing E flat, B flat, and D. That's the 3rd, the 7th, and the 9th. For F minor, it's E flat, A flat, and C. That's the 7th, the 3rd, and the 5th. And for G7, I'm playing F, B, and D sharp or E flat. That's the 7th, the 3rd, and the flat 13th. Right? So first of all, let's just, in fact, let me move this down a little bit slower. I'll put it down to 80 beats per minute. Oops. There we go. First thing, you just start with the chords, right? Just hold them out. Then I can bring in my minor 5-finger scale and then think legato. Okay. Next time, let's try staccato. Legato, we've done staccato. Now let's mix between them. So again, utilizing legato and staccato, it's just one more way that we can create a little bit more expression with what it is that we're playing. Ultimately, that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking to be able to express ourselves fully at the instrument. Now, how I like to think about articulation is it's really kind of like enunciation. So you know how some people, they'll talk and they just kind of like their tongue might be kind of lazy or whatnot, and it's kind of hard to understand what it is that they're saying and everything, because their enunciation of their words is not very good. Whereas sometimes you can get somebody who's going to talk like this and they're really enunciating every word, and that's a little bit too much as well. So you want to find that balance, right? You want to make sure that when you are quote unquote speaking at your instrument, that you're not being lazy with what it is that you're playing, in your improvisation, but that you're also not overdoing it with your articulation. Remember this, your scales, your piano essentials, all of that is really important. Like working on that technique is really important, because that's what builds up the strength and dexterity in your fingers for you to be able to do all of this articulation work. Okay? So now, we talked about play and rest and other stuff in the podcast. Now we're just kind of bringing in articulation. So hopefully what you're realizing is that, okay, here's another concept. Let me bring this concept back to the piano. But then even before you bring it back to the piano, if you happen to be listening in the car right now, throw on some jazz, listen to another jazz pianist. How does Keith Jarrett articulate versus Bill Evans versus Ahmad Jamal versus Thelonious Monk versus Bud Powell? Like, you'll hear that the articulation that players will have, some of them will be a little bit smoother, some of them be a little bit more aggressive, right? You might find that it's a little bit more short and detached, and in one player, whereas another player it's a little bit more smooth, and they play a little bit more legato and connected. Remember this as well, is that rhythm really kind of plays a big part of this as well. We never really take out one concept. We could focus on a concept when we're practicing, but we don't really just take out a concept of like, okay, now it's articulation. Okay, now it's like your chords. Like when we improvise, it's all being put together. The rhythm, the articulation, the notes you're choosing, the accompaniment, all of it is, playing and resting. All of those elements are combined together in improvisation at the spur of the moment, all right? But we want to obviously practice them separately so that we get better at them. All right, so anyway, now I want to remind you that if you have questions, Members can join me on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern while the Confident Improviser course is active. Again, this is November 2020. I'm not sure when you might be taking a listen to this, but the course is going to be active for well over a year. So we'll be well into 2021. The course will be active all through 2021. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of lessons to go through. All right, so be sure to join me on Thursdays. If you are a member, remember the link is just right in the menu area where it says live training. All right, so anyway, that's it for me. Thanks, guys, for joining me, and I will see you in the next podcast episode.